The topic today is eating well for survivorship, maintaining a healthy weight. So we're really excited about being here, and I'm with my colleague.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nancy Zawicki, registered dietitian with Northwestern Medicine, and both Mary and I work at the Delmer Cancer Center.
Yeah, and welcome to those of you that are online and also here in person.
Yeah, so as Mary said, this is the second week. It's called Eating Well for Survivorship, Maintaining a Healthy Weight. And then next week, same time, same place, it'll be gut health and the microbiome. And we hear about that so much, so that'll be an interesting talk. And then just to review, we promote the Mediterranean way of eating as a survivor moving forward after treatment. So that's what we promote here. And we want to promote more like poultry and fish in your diet. Increase your servings of vegetables and fruit. You want to strive for like 5 to 7 or 6 to 8 servings a day. Sounds like a lot, but when you break it down throughout your day, you can get a little at breakfast, lunch, dinner. It adds up pretty easily. And then using healthy fats, we mostly just use olive oil here, but avocado oil is okay too, whichever your preference. And then low-fat dairy, unless you're trying to gain a few pounds, if you lost some, then you might go to whole milk dairy until you're at the weight you want, then you can go back to low fat. And then adding whole grains wherever possible. And activity is so important. And luckily, we're starting to get some nicer weather. So if you feel up for it, taking a walk or even sitting outside, all the birds are, singing away. And that can be so good for stress control too. It's great.
Yeah, I'm really glad about the warmer weather. It's kind of boosting my spirits to do more too, and cleaning out closets and stuff like that. So the Mediterranean plant-based diet, we've talked about this before if you've been in some of our classes, but it is recommended by the American Cancer Society as well as the American Institute for Cancer Research and the American Dietetic, the Academy of Dietetics and Nutrition. And this is based on evidence of years and years of research. So the people that are living in that area, then we know that they have less disease. And it is an emphasis, as Nancy mentioned, of plant foods, fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, herbs and spices, and they have a lot of protective properties, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals to fight cancer. A lot of people ask us, well, can I just take a pill or a supplement? And we know that there are a lot of nutrients in food, and there's a lot we don't know about all the nutrients in food. So they're talking a lot about the microbiome now, and that research is showing that we need a big variety of whole foods and not those supplements and individual servings. So what is a healthy weight? A healthy weight looks different for everyone, and it's based on gender. You've heard people say, they're bigger boned. It is based on bone density, height, age, body composition. We may have a bodybuilder that is very healthy, that has a BMI over 30, and, they're in good health. So numbers are not always the guide. It's good to talk with your dietitian about it.
Yeah, I was going to say too, the recipe we're doing tonight, there's no meat in it, but there's beans and whole grains. Like it's really delicious. And, to give you some ideas for incorporating more whole grains and vegetables into your diet and, vegetable protein. So your healthy weight, we utilize the BMI, which, you can use as a tool. It shows you on this chart that a healthy BMI, adults, it gives you 18.5 to 24.9 kilograms. And then adults would be 65 and over. It gives you a little bit, more leeway. But BMI isn't the whole thing. I feel like your weight that you feel best at, and you can tell your clothes fit better. We're not trying to have people get down to being skinny minis. It's more if you feel like you need to lose 10 pounds, then maybe that's something to work on. And sometimes it just happens when you change your food habits. We had a patient who said he just cut out red meat and sweets and he lost some weight that way, but he was still eating healthy. So that was like a good way to lose some weight. Some people like cut out carbs, but we don't want you completely cutting out carbs. There's two types of carbohydrates, complex and simple. And the complex ones you need, they're B vitamins. And that's where you get fiber in your diet. So that would be like a brown rice and whole grain cereal and whole grain breads. Those are okay. Our body needs it, our brain needs it. But it's the simple sugars, those simple carbohydrates are what you should decrease in your diet, and it'll help with weight control. But also like checking your weight, like getting on the scale and just making sure that you're at least maintaining. And then if you decide to lose some weight, use that as your gauge. We don't want you to get all, writing down weights and counting calories. Like, try to make healthy choices, cut out the ultra processed foods, try to eat more of the whole, and what we're talking about here, the Mediterranean way, and people can naturally lose some weight that way. And then you can see this graph too, once you know your BMI, and then you can tell what range you're in. But they do say that research shows that people with a healthy BMI have less disease and enjoy longer lives than people who are obese. So if you can get out of the obese category and be like regular weight or a little bit overweight, it's better.
Yeah, so what about protein? We talk about protein a lot because that's a good way to maintain lean body mass when you're in treatment or after treatment. And we've talked a little bit about how you can only absorb about 30 grams of protein every 3 hours. So you have to really spread out your protein foods. We know that research shows that a higher protein diet helps with weight management as well. A lot of times, if people are cutting calories, they're cutting protein, fats, and carbs, and then you don't have the satiety from the fat and you don't have the protein that'll carry you through. Your body uses up carbohydrates first, then protein, then fat. So you kind of need all of those components to stay full and maintain your calorie level to lose weight. Higher protein diets suggest that you should have protein in those quantities of 25 to 30 grams at each meal. And that helps with appetite, it helps with body weight management and cardiovascular risk factors. So the studies show that you can have more of a weight loss with a higher protein diet than a lower protein diet. I think protein kind of got a bad rap because everybody said we're eating way too much meat, and so we need to cut back on that. And now we're not really getting enough protein, so we have to kind of make sure you're getting adequate protein. So how much protein is needed? So estimating, and we can figure this out for you too pretty quickly, estimating protein needs varies per individual and also activity and what's going on in your life. So someone that is recovering from surgery would need more. If there's wound healing, you would need more. An Olympic athlete needs a lot more. I know some of the Olympic swimmers might have 20,000 calories in a day. So that means their protein level is way up there. So they have to pretty much eat all the time. But this is a good example. A 150-pound person needs about 68 to 82 grams of protein per day. And so when you think about it, and we'll talk more about how much protein is in each food, but trying to think of 25 to 30 grams kind of at your meal times is helpful.
All right, so food first, that's what we strive for. And here's some sources of protein. They show the hand there. So the palm of your hand is about a 3 to 4 ounce portion of meat. I know if we have little tiny people, it's like it's just a rough gauge or estimate. We also use the deck of cards too as maybe a 3 ounce portion.
I did have a man who said my hand, and he had a very large hand. I said, okay, no, my hand.
So I give some examples of protein like lean chicken and turkey, lean beef, fish, cod, salmon, halibut, trout, tuna, egg, cheese, cottage cheese, yogurt, Greek yogurt. Try some things that you haven't had for a while. Like I wasn't eating cottage cheese and now I have it every morning for breakfast because I really like it with some fruit. So try things that you might have had an aversion to before and see if, it works in your diet. Some people will drink a protein drink, like there's some out there that have 30 grams of protein. They might use it as a meal replacement, or if they had a breakfast that didn't have so much protein, they might have it for a mid-morning snack. Just vary your sources of protein, but know that there's options out there. And then there's some plant sources of protein, tofu, soybeans, different types of beans. We're using 2 in our recipe tonight. Lentils, soy milk, almond milk, peanut butter, handful of nuts, seeds. So kind of vary things up. We do say if you're trying to do like 3 meals, like lighter meals, and then having snacks in between, some of these vegetable proteins would be good for a snack, like a little handful of nuts or some peanut butter on a banana or apple, and it helps give you that satiety and feeling of fullness. And it helps with your muscles too, that you're not losing your muscle mass.
Yeah, so what are some tips for adding protein to the diet? Nancy had some good ones right there. Adding yogurt, nut butters, or protein powder to smoothies is a good idea. A lot of times when I suggest add peanut butter to oatmeal, I get kind of a funny look, but it's really good. Also, I put peanut butter on my pancakes instead of maple syrup because then I'm getting more protein and it kind of gives you, that's one of those breakfasts that doesn't have a lot of protein if you're just having pancakes with nothing else. So I like peanut butter that way. Hard cooked eggs, cheese, nuts, seeds, add those to salads or soups. Tonight we're going to be adding the beans. We do have a great recipe on the Living Well website for a cannellini bean dip. That's amazing.
It is good. Yeah.
You saute them with herbs and garlic, and what a great way to have a dip without having all those fat calories and having more protein.
And you can serve it warm,
Mhm.
and it's really nice, a nice savory dip that's all
Yeah, it has
protein.
fresh sage in it. It's called a cannellini bean dip. So check out the recipes on the Living Well website. There we have a lot in that culinary nutrition section. And then adding legumes like edamame or beans to soups, salads and stir fries. Add fruit or with yogurt, cottage cheese, like Nancy said for breakfast, peanut butter or cheese. Choose milk from cow's milk or soy milk instead of water as a beverage. So that's a good way between meals to get a little extra protein, especially if you're having like a sweet treat. A lot of times I'll suggest having milk to kind of give you some protein with it. And then adding ground turkey or tofu crumbles to marinara sauce or lasagna. So protein shakes are a good option if you're not getting able to take regular food or if you need a supplement. But there are some considerations that you should think about before having a protein shake. One is protein. There's some that have 8 grams of protein and some that have 30. So that's something you want to kind of look. The ones that have 8 grams of protein may have a few more calories than some of the 30-gram ones. So kind of it depends on what your goals are, and you would talk with your dietitian about that. And then you want to check about carbohydrates. If you have diabetes in your history, then you might want the lower carb one. So that would be maybe the 30-gram one that's lower in carbs and calories. And then vitamins and minerals are important. During treatment, we don't recommend vitamins A, C, and E. So we would want to check how much there are of those in those supplements. And if it has added ingredients. So some of the ones that are sold like at Walgreens, like Ensure, Boost, or Orgain, or Walmart, or some of those places, those are probably regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, but some of them at the health food stores may not be. So they may have added ingredients that we don't know about. And then whether or not you want organic. So that's kind of a personal preference, but the Orgain is a good choice that we've had some good luck with.
And dairy,
Yeah, and then,
lactose free.
right, if you want lactose free or not, that's right. That's another, the organic ones that use pea protein are good if you're not tolerating dairy or have a lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some people are using the protein drinks in the morning as their breakfast. I know my son in Minnesota, he'll have one on his way to work, you know, that's his breakfast, but he's getting 30 grams of protein. So it's whatever fits your lifestyle. If you're busy in the morning, but you want to have something or just as an energy booster. Some people who might be very fatigued and can't stand very long in the kitchen, they might opt for that as an easy lunch for them. So it's just another option. And then the next slide where it's the plate. So if you look at that plate, the plate on the half on the left, that's what you should try and make most of your foods from. Half your plate should be vegetables or fruit. And then the next side is a grain. And that could also include like brown rice, something like that. And then your protein source. And then if you can fit dairy into that meal, that way you're getting all 5 food groups. So it just gives you a guide. So when you are planning meals, you can just kind of visualize that. And it doesn't have to be fruit. It can just be all vegetables if you want. You know, you can include a variety and just roast them. And that can fill half your plate. So it's a good idea of just a visual to see what a healthy, balanced meal would look like. We try to choose fresh foods. Like when I shop, I try to do the outer perimeter of the store, where one stop is in the produce department, get my whole vegetables, and then I move on to the meats, got your fresh meats, your low-fat dairy, your grains. It's up and down the aisles is where all the snacky foods, things that really increase our food bill. And that's the ultra processed foods that you want to decrease. Doesn't mean you can never have it. It's just don't go to the grocery store hungry, because then all those foods pop out at you. And have a list. If you can stick to the list, but then if there is, a treat that you might want, you can get it, but you don't want that to be most of your cart. And then when you select like breads or grains, look at the package and see that the first ingredient says whole grain or whole wheat, or whole is the key word to show that it's a whole grain. That's what you want. And then using the variety of fruits and vegetables, eat for color, eat the rainbow, but those foods then are very high in, they're anti-inflammatory, so they're helpful to our bodies to reduce inflammation. And like I said before, I'm a paper person, so I like to plan a few meals for the week and then make my grocery list and then just kind of survey what you need. I kind of categorize it in the different food groups when I shop. Makes it easier, like all the dairy in one spot, the meats, the canned stuff if I needed something that way. And then portion control is important. You can pull out those measuring cups, and when you look at like the container of cottage cheese and it says a half a cup and it tells you how many calories, you can measure it out just so you can visualize what that amount. You can have a double portion if you want, but you want to train your eyes to know what that looks like instead of using like a bigger bowl and loading it up. That might be too much at one time. And then filling up on raw vegetables like carrots and celery, red pepper, cucumber. All those are kind of like a free food. They're adding color and they're adding anti-inflammatory properties, but they're also very low calorie, and they go good with like hummus, which is a source of beans. You can make a cottage cheese dip, a yogurt, plain yogurt dip. You just ask Alexa to give you a recipe. Yeah.
Or look on Living Well.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever works best. Yeah.
So this fact is very interesting. I thought an extra 100 calories per day can add up to 10-pound weight gain per year. So when we think about those little 100-calorie packs, or like sometimes like when you're cooking, and sometimes if I'm really hungry and I'm cooking, I tend to snack a little bit, make sure it tastes okay. And then by the end of it, you're getting almost too full to have dinner. So you have to be careful. A lot of times I'll put like a little dish of carrots by the skillet when I'm cooking, so I can kind of, chew on those and not eat too much before dinner.
A big offender is nuts in the pantry. And then you get home, you're starving. Well, I'll just have some nuts. And then by the time you know it, you're full just from that. And you still are cooking a meal. So
Or
kind
a
of
lot of
your
people
habits.
a lot of people do cookies too, because they're fast and easy.
Yeah.
And they're, laying around.
Yeah.
This is 3 ounces as far as portion. Again, looking at the deck of cards, and a deck of cards isn't too thick. So You want to kind of, kind of train your eye to the portion and avoid portion distortion. So in the next slide, we look and see 20 years ago, what a bagel looked like was kind of like a mini bagel that we call mini bagels now. That's what a bagel was, 140 calories. And then today, when you get a bagel like a Panera or something, it's more like 350 calories. So we have to be careful to notice how big the portions are and how much we want to be taking in if we're trying to manage our weight. So you might want to have a mini bagel, with like some tuna salad or something on it, and then have some vegetables. So do you have that plate where you see the fruit and vegetables are making the majority of the plate?
So now the next slide, portion distortion. Again, thinking back when we were younger and you'd go, I remember we had a burger chef. That was what it was. And normal size burger, little bag of fries, and then milkshakes or something. But now everything's so big and super size, it's like crazy. So
multiple patties, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see how the calories differ, like a basic hamburger, small fry, and a small Coke. It's about 630 calories, 20 grams of fat. And now the big guys are, a large fry, bigger burger and Coke, and that's over 1,000 calories. So, some people are just opting, if they're in a hurry and they want a sandwich like that, order the sandwich, but skip on the fries. And I wouldn't get sugary beverage either, but sometimes if you're traveling and all and your choices are limited, sometimes you have to cave in and get something like that, but just be mindful too. Some people get a stomach ache from all that fat too, like there's just too much at one time. And then also the next slide, portioning for meal prep. There's a variety of containers. I try to keep the glass containers with the snap-on lid. I just like those because I can throw them in the dishwasher and they go nice in the microwave. They can get hot, so you might need some little grippers to take something out. But I like that they clean up real nice and they don't hold on to a smell. Sometimes plastic can take on a smell of different foods. I'd be careful with some of the takeout containers and then continually to reuse them and microwave them. I don't think that's so good because it's that black plastic. I would almost say you could store the food, but then put it onto a plate when you go to reheat it. And, a lot of people now are taking their lunch to work. I mean, we both do. It's just easier. But also it's a way to use up any leftovers you have or, making fresher foods, salads. And then those little jars are cute too. Those little canning jars. Those are fun to have. And, even if you've got some grains left, you can pour them into that, but I was always label it and then put what the expiration date is on it too. So they're not sitting in your pantry too long and getting out of date. But yeah.
I read a study too that if your containers are turning color, that means the food is going into the plastic, but also that the plastic is going into the food. So if they're getting misshapen and have, the sauce color,
Yeah,
to get rid of.
I would avoid reheating in those kind of plastic things.
Yeah,
So
sure.
yeah.
So tips for meal planning, Mediterranean style. You want to build your main entree around the vegetables as opposed to the meat. We used to think of a big plate of spaghetti and then a tiny little salad, which would be like 2 ounces. And now we want to kind of have a big salad with a smaller plate of spaghetti and meatballs. Add variety, trying new recipes. That's why we're here doing recipe demos all the time. And then try using different methods, like using your crock pot for something different. Make 2 meals at once and save one for the next day, or save ingredients. So like if you roast vegetables on the weekend, use some of them for that dinner and then save some to put in your soups and your sandwiches and your salads to make them more flavorful.
I feel like using that crock pot is wonderful. Like you could get some meats, like a chuck roast or something, and let it slow cook, and it's just delicious. The smells, and you can add vegetables to it. It just turns out really well versus roasting it in the oven. Sometimes it gets a little too dry in the oven, but it's fun to experiment with that.
I know my mother-in-law likes to make a lasagna, for example, and then she portions it out for a couple of meals and then she freezes the rest in little one person portions. And so then she has meals for several days and you can pull it out in a couple weeks. So you're not just tired of eating it all the time. Um, so that's really helpful. And then plan nutritious snacks like the raw veggies we talked about, whole grain crackers. Sometimes if you feel like you're eating a lot of snacks, you need to add in some protein. I found that a lot of people that are skipping breakfast are snacking a lot in the evenings. And then because they're not getting enough protein and their body is looking for something. So try to add that protein food at morning or mid-morning and see if that helps with late night snacking. And then healthy fats and oils. Nancy mentioned that already, but we usually cook with olive oil here, but nut butters are good, seeds, avocados, getting your omega-3s from fish, and then choose, we really don't have trans fats anymore. They've been taken off of the market. The fats from animal sources we want, especially the processed meats, we want to avoid those when possible. So having red meat on occasion, but not too often. Choosing low fat milk and using butter very, very sparingly if you need it.
You'll see canola oil on that list. It's okay. It's just a highly processed oil. So we really don't promote much of that. If you kept it on hand for, I don't know, something, but I just stock olive oil. I get the big one, extra virgin olive oil from Costco. And that's what I cook with. And people will say, oh, the smoke point's not so good, but you're not going to be deep frying. You don't have to worry about that. You might saute, but you're not going to be really doing high heat with it. So you don't even have to worry about that. It's just kind of a sales pitch or something. So the next slide is a Mediterranean diet where we talk about limiting sodium and refined carbohydrate. Mary and I both are big on not adding salt. I don't add it at home either. I mean, I might put a teeny bit in a pot of pasta if I was cooking or potatoes maybe, but I don't cook with salt. And my youngest son's a chef in the city and he's all into fat and salt. I'm like, we're opposite here. That's what I don't want, you know. So anyhow, that's one start is get away from adding salt. Then we try to make food flavorful though. Like in this recipe, we have garlic, onions, ginger. We've got herbs.
Fresh ginger.
Yeah.
Fresh thyme.
Right. And yeah. So anyhow, that's what we try to do. And like now is the time of year where you can start thinking about a little garden. Doesn't have to be huge, but maybe some herbs in there because they are expensive in the store. And it's kind of fun to, tend to something like that. But people who have high blood pressure or if they have any heart concerns or, risk of stroke, or even if you can tell like, oh, my hands are tight or my ankles are swelling a little, it could be from too much sodium in your diet. I mean, it could be other things too, but it's a place to start. And when we buy broth, like for this recipe, we're making a soup, we always get low sodium stock or broth. And we try to get low sodium beans, but it's not that big a deal. You can rinse them. But yeah, and when you get away from the processed foods, that's where a lot of sodium comes from. So doing the fresh vegetables and then using your herbs and spices to give food flavor. Did you add turmeric to the butternut squash?
Yeah. We added turmeric, so you'll get extra anti-inflammatory properties with the butternut squash in the soup.
And you don't have to worry. It's that nice goldy orange color, and you think I'm going to taste it. I can never taste it. You just put it on, and
But it gives it a depth of flavor when you taste everything together to
Yeah.
have all those, different herbs and things.
yeah. So it's a good one. And then the Mediterranean diet does limit refined carbohydrates, which is the candy, cookies, frosting, cakes. It doesn't mean you have to avoid them entirely. If there's a birthday party you're going to, like say your granddaughter's having a birthday party, you can have a slice of cake. But like at work, if someone is passing something out, I try to take a pass. Depends on who made it. Sometimes it's hard. But you want to limit it a little bit, And I try not to keep that in my pantry, but I might have a little dark chocolate because sometimes you get that urge for something. And they say if you just take like a piece of dark chocolate and let it melt on your tongue, like don't chew it, just melt. It takes, gives you that satisfaction of something sweet. Yeah. All right, and then choosing high fiber foods. So the Mediterranean diet favors foods that are high in fiber and antioxidants. They help to reduce inflammation in your body. And there's some great sources like oatmeal. We try to use different grains here. Today we're using couscous, but last week, what do we use? Was it farro?
Farro, you know.
Yeah. And we, like we're trying to incorporate the recipes with different grains so you can try them to see if you like them. But brown rice is always, good. And then when you select your breads, check the label. Like I was saying, there might be some that say multi-grain, but when you actually look at the ingredients, it might just have refined different grains where you want it to say whole, WHOLE, whole wheat, or, something like that to get you the whole grain. And sometimes the packaging will say it on the front too. It's a way to advertise. It's a marketing strategy, but it's okay. So anyhow, things to think about when you make your, your shopping selections.
It is a good idea. The Mediterranean diet does include chicken and fish, but it is a good idea to throw in some plant-based proteins if you can. I actually really like this picture here that shows like tuna salad with garbanzo beans, and they're so good in that. I used to always add eggs, but now I'm adding more like garbanzo beans or even the cannellini beans, or it gives it a good texture. It stretches the tuna a little bit, keeps you more full. So that's a great idea.
So when we work together, Mary will say, oh, I just got to warn you guys, I brought tuna today. She brings it like 3 times a week.
I eat tuna all the time. She does too.
I do. I like it. But the way she announces it, it's like, okay, everyone.
Tuna. I love those little tuna packets too. Those are really easy and they have some flavor, but not fat. But it's a great way to get your omega-3s. I mean, the American Cancer Society recommends to try to have 2 3-ounce servings of fish per week. So if we're not having like salmon at home that week or something, I'll try to bring in tuna to make sure that I'm getting that, which is really helpful. And if you haven't tried adding fresh lemon and dill, that really, if you don't like tuna, you might like that because it gives the tuna kind of another whole flavor profile, which is good. And then, white beans, we talked about those. We've got some great recipes there. Those are a good way to use in soups and all kinds of things. And then beans and lentils. I think lentils are super easy to add to soups and stews and chili. Especially if you get the tiny red lentils, they like 15-20 minutes, you just toss them in at the end and they'll cook just fine, and it'll give you some more protein. And you're getting that good soluble fiber too, which helps your heart health. So just kind of, try to be a little creative. Hopefully you'll like what we've made today.
And that's kind of why we do the cooking demo too, is to expose you to other foods you might not commonly have in your diet, but you've heard it might be good. Like the beans and that. I know growing up, we just had baked beans. It wasn't beans, but then it's evolved. They've really gotten popular, black beans. And now we try to include a few of the others just so you can try them.
Yeah, last night we baked sweet potatoes, and then I did a Mexican topping where I sauteed like onions and peppers and black beans and put that on, and then put a little cheese and baked it. So it was delicious. So you want to kind of strike a balance: food, exercise, and calories. We're finding out more and more that exercise alone can prevent cancer risk by more than 40% in some cases. So exercise is huge, no matter how you get it. If you're in Menards, walking around, or Costco, try to get some walking in. If the goal is to lose weight, then you want to inch back on your calories a little bit and watch those extra calories of walking by and having a little snack or something while you're cooking. If you want to gain weight, then try to get more calories throughout the day and make sure you're getting protein probably 4 times a day, just to make sure you're maintaining that lean body mass.
Yeah, and then activity is a part of the Mediterranean lifestyle. So it's not just food, it's also being around people, not isolating yourself, having a family meal time, and then doing things in your community, and then getting the exercise. I think we all need people around us, to, I don't know, it's just that kind of time. But find the exercise that you enjoy. I know over the weekend it was really nice weather, so I got my walks in, but I told you what I do. I put my phone on Pandora and just put it in my pocket and let it play, And then just walking, I saw geese walking around, and like nature is starting to come alive again. And it's just so calming. And like I said before, I always say I do my best thinking, just walking. And maybe if you've got a route that you do, this is what I want to do, is start extending it a little further, to take a longer walk even. Or if you have your route, maybe you could do it again later if you feel up for it, if you have the time and all.
Yeah, sometimes my husband and I will take walks on the weekend, and then we'll, stop for a cup of tea or something. So you kind of have, like some kind of fun activity at the end.
So I walked with my husband too on the weekend, and he goes, slow it down, you walk too fast. And now he started wearing like a 13-pound weight backpack. And I go, his father used to say when he played baseball, he goes, you run like you're carrying a piano on your back. And I go, that's what you look like now. But I don't know, it's just funny. We're kind of a little bit opposite of each other. So it's just funny. So anyhow, I like walking by myself, just to do my thing, my Zen moment, But yeah, you can break it up throughout the day. If you have a dog, you walk it 20 minutes, maybe later again, or, however you want. You're striving for 150 minutes a week, which is like 30 minutes for 5 days. But, you've got the weather factor. So I don't know. It's really nice that we're finally getting nice weather, and to be able to be outside is very uplifting for our head and our soul too. So.
Yeah, so in summary, the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle, you want to choose plant-based meals, but that's okay to have some meat. Picture your plate with colorful vegetables and sides of fruit, whole grains, lean meats, low-fat dairy. Sneak in some of those plant-based proteins, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Try for healthy fats, fresh herbs and spices, and get that regular exercise that we were talking about. And then we want to try to reduce stress, and activity is a good way to do that, as we talked about. Don't forget about all the resources here at Living Well with the support groups, the yoga, the meditation, massages. Physical activity can help manage stress. Same with healthy eating, gives your body the nutrients that it needs. And lastly, make sure that you're talking with your doctor about if you're having a lot of mental stress. We know that mental stress can increase those free radicals and lead to recurrence. So we want to make sure that we're managing that as part of our overall health. So it's good to kind of keep that in mind.
I feel like people who've had a cancer diagnosis learn, and it's something you have to practice, is you take situations and learn to flip them to look for the silver lining. Because that's what keeps you going. There's an alternative. You can be gloomy about it, repel people, or you can look like, I can do this, and you want to move on to a healthier lifestyle, make some changes, and enjoy life again. Don't let cancer win. And then the next slide, where it's Living Well resources, everything here is available to you, and it's such a lovely place, and take advantage of it, because it is, a lot of the art classes and exercise classes are meant to reduce stress, because everyone has life stress, but you don't want to always be feeling stress. It's not good for us. So finding these ways where you can take your mind off of things, or like I was saying before, every day do something for yourself, or you do something that you enjoy, that you're not thinking about all this. And I was saying, I sew or quilt or reading a book, or, and sitting outside is nice too, with all the birds chirping. We miss that. So I just want to remind you, next week is week 3. It's the gut health and the microbiome. Same time, 6 o'clock on next Wednesday. So Mary and I are going to scoot over and get the recipe going.
I wanted to start off by showing you the butternut squash that we roasted ahead of time. So we cut it up. So for those of you that haven't heard our tips about cutting up butternut squash. I like to take a fork and poke holes in a line all the way around the butternut squash and microwave it for 1.5 minutes. And then it's real easy to cut. So that's one good way to do it. And then I usually cut it down the middle so that you have a flat side to peel it and cut the rest. So, so that's what we did. And we did a little turmeric and pepper on here and cut it in nice little squares. And we like to roast it. You can also saute it, but the roasting kind of keeps the flavor in and caramelizes, gives it a good caramelization flavor. So, so that's what we did with this today. And I'm going to put it over here so Nancy can add it. The yellow from the turmeric.
So I'm gonna kind of leave these pieces, I can smash them a little, I'll let this broth heat up. But I do like a little texture in the soup. I like that mouthfeel. I'm not really big on pureed soups. I like to kind of see what the ingredients are in there. So what I did ahead was I just chopped up a whole onion, a yellow onion, and then some garlic, and then some fresh ginger, and got that sauteed with a little olive oil. This is the ginger. Mary and I each do it a little differently. I like to just peel it with a knife a little, and then I just, will just grate it over here. And the ginger gives a really nice flavor, and it's got a great smell to it too. You can even like brace it along here. And then I just tap it to let the pieces go in. So it's a way to give good flavor without adding salt. And then our chicken broth is less sodium. It's a 33% less sodium broth. There's a little seed in here. But, all right. All right. And then we also, we're going to add some fresh thyme. We're just going to throw it in the pot. We'll pick them out when it's all done to give flavor. And we're going to add garbanzo beans. So this is a form of vegetable protein. We don't have to mash those, but we are going to mash these cannellini beans, which are a real soft bean. So I just, this little masher, not going to make it like real thin, but just I'll do a little mashing with it. But these will give you the vegetable protein. And cannellini beans are the ones that Mary mentioned for that white bean recipe, because they just work so well. They're not strong flavored. Yeah, what else I have to do? All right, so I'll be adding this shortly to this soup mixture.
Then should I talk about the couscous next?
Yeah.
So another thing just about mashing the beans, it kind of thickens up your soup without adding like more flour and refined grains. So that's kind of another way of doing it. I cooked up this couscous and just did it with water. Couscous, if you don't know how to make it, if you haven't made it before, you heat up the water, you pour in the couscous, put the cover on, turn off the heat, and you're done in 5 minutes. It's the best, quickest grain ever. And then you want to kind of, at the end, you want to kind of fluff it with a fork. And our couscous is going to be a garnish to the soup, but we're going to put some yummy stuff in the couscous. So I'm just kind of fluffing it up and breaking it a little bit as we made it ahead. And then we're going to add it into our clear bowl here so you can see.
I can't resist. I'm going to add some herb de Provence to the food because I know we talk about it every class.
So in case those of you at home weren't here last time and you haven't heard us talk about herb de Provence, do you want to talk to them about it?
Sure. This is like a no sodium seasoning. And let's see, it's got rosemary, garlic, lavender, thyme, parsley, tarragon, marjoram, basil, savory, sage, and chervil, whatever that is. But there's no salt added. So it's a nice mild blend of herbs. And you can just add it to so many different foods, and it just gives that little extra flavor. And then black pepper is also very nice too in our soup. So I'm gonna add some black pepper because that's another favorite. Or even having garlic powder on hand. Also can give you flavor if you don't have the fresh garlic. Let me just grab that.
So with the couscous, we're gonna add our, kind of our garnishes in with the couscous, and then we're gonna put that on top of the soup. So what we have here, yeah, no shells, no shell pistachios.
We'll figure it out.
And then, we've got some chopped up, dried apricots, which is really yummy. It gives it a nice little, kind of a Moroccan, that's kind of the Moroccan part. And then we've got some yummy fresh cilantro that we chopped up. We love using those fresh herbs. And then these green onions, I'm just gonna put a little and then people can put more if they want, so that I know some people want to be careful with onions. So we're gonna stir this couscous up with all these yummy toppings, and then we're gonna use this as a garnish. Do we have any nut allergies today? We've had you guys with us, so we know we're okay.
So when you think of it, the last few classes, we had acorn squash, we had spaghetti squash, now you've got butternut squash, like you're meeting the whole family, you know? And then in the summer, it's summer squash, so like zucchini or yellow squash. And what's nice is they're mild vegetables, but the things you can do with it, it gives some bulk to foods, but they don't take over the recipe because they're mild, and it allows you to add seasonings to it to give it some flavors that you want.
You know, this couscous would be a great side dish for really any meal. If you did a crock pot dish, you could put your chicken on here and get a new grain in there. I love the crunch and the fruit and all the different flavors. So really, couscous is super easy to use and gives you a different texture. So, but I like this idea. This is kind of, we try to do things a little bit different about putting it in the soup and seeing how that works. So we're gonna just let the soup simmer for a few minutes for those of you that are at home. But we do appreciate you attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week at 6 o'clock if you can attend. And maybe in the future you can come in person to try some of our recipes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Have a great night.
Thank you.